Private research has proven, however, over and over, that the government's case against Oswald is preposterous. Neither the government nor the big media will admit the truth. Instead, they continue to spend money to support the Oswald lie in the media. The Warren Commission did not investigate the murder of JFK nor any of these shots that occurred in the plaza. They worked with J. Edgar Hoover to back up the Oswald scapegoat story and avoid or ignore any contrary evidence. In the process, they had to invent a magic bullet theory to account for all the wounds on the President, Governor Connally, and Mr. Tague due to a hypothetical lone assassin who could only manage 3 shots in the time allotted. But the magic bullet could never happen. It was impossible. Their own tests proved that no expert could hit the head of a moving target at the ranges and in the time allotted Oswald for this feat. And that's after realignment of the scope that had a missing shim. Before the shim was replaced, these were the results at 25 yards. Shots landed 6 to 8 inches high and 2 to 5 inches wide of the aim point in the FBI lab test. This weapon was not sighted in and was useless as an assassin's weapon. What the commission proved was that the Mannlicher Carcano could not have been the murder weapon. But they lied by concealing this fact in the final report. They further proved that bullets that shatter bone, as in Connally's rib and in his right wrist, cannot remain pristine. And they violated all sense of logic related to a bullet in flight, and had this pristine bullet additionally changing direction and delaying to 0 velocity, and then re-accelerating magically in another direction to align the shot with the 7 wounds the bullet was supposed to have caused. This fantasy of a report constitutes a filibuster of an investigation into the murder of a U.S. president, and is an atrocious lie in its conclusions. The secrecy of the case and the investigation was unwarranted, except to allow the government conspirators to hide, destroy, alter, or create anew the evidence in the case, and to delay real investigation for years while hiding the truth. Another fraudulent example of the Warren Report is Congressman Gerald Ford's use of a distorted artistic model of Kennedy's back and neck wounds, and the change he personally made in the summary to identify the back wound as a back of the neck wound. And that's a lie. The actual entry point was near his 3rd thoracic vertebrae, as shown, and the oval entry mark and wound direction pointed back at the records building roof, as I showed earlier for shot 4. Tens to hundreds of billions of dollars a year were at stake for big oil and defense establishment in the killing of John Kennedy. The CIA did not want to, nor would they be cut back to information gathering and analysis only. So much for Kennedy's desire to reduce arms and conflicts with the Soviet Union.
For we are both devoting massive sums of money to weapons that could be better devoted to combat ignorance, poverty, and disease.
Johnson got what he wanted and needed to stay out of jail. J. Edgar Hoover got his lifelong job as FBI director and was not outed publicly by Big Oil for his homosexual practices. Hoover and Johnson were close friends for many years, and both men hated Kennedy. They led the cover-up. Johnson absconded with Kennedy's body by force of arms, threatening the Dallas County coroner if he didn't get out of the way.
Oh, the confrontation, that was one of the biggest things that happened at Parkland. That's what caused all of this, not allowing Texas law to be in place. Our pathologist should have done the autopsy at Parkland
And he tried to.
And he tried to follow the Texas law. And the Secret Service, they looked like a herd of locusts, a phalanx around the coffin. And Mrs. Kennedy was in the middle with her left hand on the casket. And they were then coming out into the hall. And all of a sudden, there, our forensic pathologist stopped them. Dr. Earl Rose said, "Halt. This man has to have an autopsy here in the state of Texas. It'll only take 45 minutes." And they would not hear of it. They wanted to get that body out of Dallas.
This enabled the Navy to alter Kennedy's wounds at the Bethesda Naval Hospital morgue that evening, because the actual head wound was a shot in the right temple from the front with a 3-inch exit to the rear. They covered up the entry hole and tore out the side of Kennedy's head behind his ear, tripling the size of this exit wound, to make it appear plausibly the result of an angular shot from behind. Then all personnel were given hush orders not to talk.
So we're talking about the destruction of evidence, because
yes, definitely.
This is a very serious charge that you're making.
Mark Lane, the leading author and investigator into the JFK assassination, detailed in his book, Last Word, how the CIA and President Johnson had predisposed the Warren Commission to dummy up their investigation. It was out of fear of nuclear war if Oswald's connection to Cuba and the Soviet Union were disclosed. Only Warren did not know that the CIA Chief of Western Hemisphere Operations, David Atlee Phillips, had concocted the Oswald connection with phony evidence and lies. So the Commission did their job to save millions of American lives, while the public was asked to buy the Oswald lone assassin theory that a dead Oswald could not contradict. Since this concoction was set up before the actual assassination, it shows CIA pre-knowledge of a plan to cover up the impending assassination. It makes the CIA accessories before the fact, equally guilty for the murder of JFK as the shooters themselves. This illusion of Oswald's connection to Cuba and Russia gave the CIA and other conspirators the cover they needed to baffle the American people. Johnson was a puppet of big oil and the defense industry. Nixon was a Bush family developed political asset for the covert conspiracy. He became the malleable attorney interested in politics in 1946 and was sponsored by Prescott Bush, G.H.W. Bush's father. So the Bush family connived their way into supreme control of America and the world through their puppets in the right places. The command structure, in part, for the Kennedy assassination would be the same as the command structure for the evil monolithic conspiracy talked about by Kennedy.
We are opposed around the world by a monolithic and ruthless conspiracy that relies primarily on covert means for expanding its sphere of influence, on infiltration instead of invasion, on subversion instead of elections, on intimidation instead of free choice, on guerrillas by night instead of armies by day. It is a system which has conscripted vast human and material resources into the building of a tightly knit, highly efficient machine that combines military, diplomatic, intelligence, economic, scientific, and political operations. Its preparations are concealed, not published. Its mistakes are buried, not headlined. Its dissenters are silenced, not praised. No expenditure is questioned, no rumor is printed, no secret is revealed.
He goes on to encourage the media to fully inform the people about what they know and to be the watchdog of the Constitution. But due to tough, private, selfish ownership, the media has not informed the people and has instead used its corporate-influenced CIA and private security forces to button down the truth and keep it hidden.